Hello and welcome to the latest in the Leaders with Ambition podcast series. And today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my guest, Claire Kavanagh. Now, Claire is Global Head of Talent Acquisition at Bird & Bird. And it's going to be a really interesting podcast today following Claire's story and career history. When she was growing up, she always had this itch to be a lawyer, and we'll explore that today. So interesting that she's come full circle to working for law firms. I think what we'll also see today is this real strength of authenticity that shines through from Claire. And it's something that, at times in her career, she has had to show a little bit of vulnerability, something that wasn't comfortable with her to start with. But I think when she started to recognise that she was a leader, not just a manager, she recognised the power of being authentic, and the tenacity and determination that she has shown throughout her career, I think, is completely immense. I would also say that D&I is something that Claire is very passionate about, so we'll definitely talk about that today. And also the importance of sponsorship, mentoring and networking, and how that changes at different stages in your life. So without further ado, very excited to hand over to you, Claire, to bring your career history to life for us.
Great. Thank you, Nikki. It's really great to be here. Delighted to be part of this podcast. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. I was really surprised when you wanted to do one on me. So, but here we go.
Lots of interesting things, Claire. So what was it like growing up for you? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Northwest in Cheshire. I had a number of schools that I attended over the years, probably around 6 in total, at primary and secondary, mainly sort of due to parents moving around. Also spent 12 months in the Isle of Man as well as part of my schooling. So moved around quite a lot, but eventually settled at a lovely school. It was a convent school. I was taught by a number of nuns, which was certainly interesting. So I stayed there until I finished my GCSEs and then moved on to a sixth form college afterwards.
That must have been a bit of a change after being taught by nuns.
It was. I went from an all-girls school to a mixed college where, I could wear what I want, didn't have to wear my brown and yellow uniform anymore. So yes, it was. It was quite a sort of a change really for me. And but one I sort of transitioned into quite well. It was great fun to go down the student union on a Friday night. Felt very sort of grown up at that college. So yeah, it was good fun.
So you decided after college that you wanted to explore a career in law, didn't you? There was a very strong reason why that was.
There was. Yeah, so I'd always been interested in law. I sort of take it down to sort of my interest was initiated by watching the TV programme LA Law, which is probably like a precursor to Suits nowadays. But Ally McBeal was in there. It was it was a great show. There were lots of power suits. There was drama. There was pace. There was glamour. The corporate environment really sort of drew me to it, and so it did. It got me thinking about what could I do? What avenues are available for lawyers? So I actually spent quite a lot of time shadowing barristers and solicitors during school holidays as part of work experience. I even visited prisons as part of that work experience, following a barrister around, which was certainly really interesting, and sort of going actually into the prisons themselves, these old Victorian prisons that still exist to these days with, metal stairwells and, an all-male prison. And there was I wandering around, 15, 16-year-old girl in a dress and, wondering about walking up these stairwells. And
quite intimidating, I would imagine.
Quite intimidating. Yeah. But at the same time, sort of made me feel that, sort of that I had that strength to be able to do that. So, yeah, so really interesting work experience. I had time at the Greater Manchester Police as well, where I was sort of speeding fines all day, which wasn't particularly interesting and sort of put me off a career in police for life. But following the barrister around certainly and sort of spending time in solicitor's office really sort of made me think about wanting to study at the university.
And so when you decided that was going to be your path, it was a challenge for you, wasn't it? Still, that step up from sixth form to university, which I think it is for so many people.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I went on to study law and criminology, but really, I was self-funding, as did a number of students then. And, in hindsight, perhaps I really should have taken a year out to mature. I just wanted to get going. I didn't have time or really the money to, I probably had the time, but not the money to sort of financially support myself traveling around the world or, going to do something. So it did mean that I had to go straight into uni. And, I really enjoyed it. I did a dual honours degree of law and criminology, but didn't come away quite with the degree that I wanted, which didn't put me in very good stead for applying for training contracts. And, there's this ferocious competition out there for training contracts in the corporates. And people were securing training contracts in their first year at uni, as they, I'm sure, do nowadays as well. And so, you were constantly having to find money to apply for these positions. There was application forms and interviews, etc. And it was very hard to actually sort of get over that line of, getting really a sort of an introduction and sort of as part of the recruitment process. So, really hard, and, continued all the way up until the final year. Felt that I still really wanted to get into the law then. And so I went on to law college, Chester Law College, and again, took out a big loan to fund. And I loved going to law college. It was fantastic. It was very different to studying a degree. It was very practical. I really related to it. Had a great time there. Came away with an excellent result. Came away with my commendation. So thinking that would sort of put me in good stead for training contracts. But by then, most of the training contracts had been secured, and I was sort of scouring the country, going through yellow pages and newspapers and whatever, making direct approaches, but didn't quite come away with a training contract when I left law college.
And at that time, then, did that seem like a huge thing for you? How did you feel? Because these are times in your life where, particularly I think when you come into education, you're really focused, aren't you? And just the system makes you focus. And if you don't do this, then you're not going to achieve what you want to in life. So it must have been a real big challenge for you then.
Yeah, it was a massive challenge. It was really disheartening. You had friends around you that were getting training contracts, and quite often through friends that they knew, or family members, or they'd worked at that law firm prior to going to university, and rightly got a training contract through that. So extremely disheartening, and I was thinking, how am I going to support myself? What am I going to tell my parents? This is what I've sort of dreamed of all sort of my childhood, really, and sort of the dream was sort of coming to an end quite quickly, and thinking, what else do I do? Where do I go from here?
And then so you decided you were going to get some temporary work, didn't you, whilst you were looking at a more permanent...
I did. I moved down to London because I was dating someone there who sort of eventually became my husband, and we rented a flat. We stayed with his parents for a little bit, and then sort of rented a flat in South London. And I found work as a temp at a media company, which was, a world away. It was a Middle Eastern media company, a world away. I got a role as an office manager, and it was great. It was my sort of first proper job. Really loved it. Could have probably sort of continued to stay there and progress somehow, but all the while still applying for training contracts, because that's kind of what I felt I needed to do. That's what I went to university for, and I just needed to sort of complete my mission, really. So continue to do that, and eventually I found a role. My sort of tenacity and determination paid off. I located a small high street firm on the south coast that I kept in contact with actually for a couple of years. They'd sort of written a really nice reply back when I applied to them a couple of years ago, and I just stayed in contact with them. Is there a training contract yet? How's the business doing? I'm still here if you need me. Yeah. And eventually I got that training contract, and, that was brilliant. I relocated, my boyfriend and I, we sort of relocated down to the South Coast and started there. And then very quickly realised this wasn't LA Law.
Yeah. I'm sure lots of people say similar things, don't they?
It was a very small firm. It was run by two lawyers, two partners, and there was one other trainee there, and that was it. And it was sort of based in a house, a converted house. It was a million miles away from sort of what my vision had been. So I had to make a really big decision, and the decision was I couldn't continue doing this. This wasn't where my heart and soul was, and so we upped and sort of went back up to London, rented a flat, and I approached the recruitment agency that had found me my office managerial role in the media company and said, look, I need to earn some money. Christmas is coming. I've got bills. Can you help me? And they said, well, actually, we've got something at our agency, just temporary, come and see what you think, and just for a couple of months or so. And that
went on for 17 years, was it?
Yeah, and that was it was actually secretarial recruitment that I started out in.
Right.
Actually, I just joined as their admin, and they very quickly made me into a consultant and permanent. And I did that for about 12 months or so, 18 months. And then the business was taken over, and they discovered that I had a law degree. So that put me in good stead for opening up their legal division.
Yeah.
I spent many hours sort of scrolling through the Big Law Society book then. There was no real website then of finding corporate lawyers in London and headhunting them out and moving them to other law firms across London. And that was really successful. It was a really successful business. But I really wanted.
Do you feel like you found your niche, though, Claire? I mean, you say wasn't what you expected. You did a really brave thing. You made a huge brave decision, and you find yourself in a different career completely. Yeah,
no, try explaining that to your parents that thought that their child was going to be this lawyer, and all of a sudden you're a recruitment agent.
Yeah.
I
love recruitment consultants, though, Claire.
There's nothing wrong with recruitment consultants. But it very quickly made me realise that actually I still had a lot to offer the role. I had a lot of knowledge, and I could relate to those lawyers that I was working with, both from candidate and a client perspective. So it felt like I was doing, I was in a far better place than where I had been. And it was fast moving. It was pacey. I loved the relationship building. So there was a sort of niche there, but never thought that would be my long-term plan.
Right.
Never ever. How's
that working out?
Well, 20 plus years later, I'm still in the legal recruitment market. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but I feel in the right place where I am. My career has gone in lots of different directions over the years, but I've always sort of come back to doing legal recruitment. And
what was it that made you decide that you wanted to move from an agency side into, an in-house role where you were much more part of the firm and obviously running partner recruitment as well?
Yeah, I then moved to an agency that was real specialist in legal. And I was there for 17 years and at EJ Legal, and I, loved it. But it's, it was a small agency, around about sort of 20 to 30 staff over the years. And I felt that I had not quite sort of fulfilled my dream of this LA Law corporate environment. And, I sort of progressed at at EJ, and it worked really well with balancing children and the flexibility. I had 2 maternity leaves there.
Yeah.
There was a big sort of financial crisis that I went through as well in terms of the huge impact on lawyers leaving the market, and where do you go? How do you continue to recruit in a legal market that's just the bottom has fallen out of it, and where lawyers were being made redundant left, right, and centre. They were put on 3 days a week. Where do you go from that? But I sort of progressed there, and I moved myself over to the partner team. So I was handling the partner and team moves there for a number of years, but it still didn't. I loved it there, but it still didn't feel quite where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that LA law, desire still was at the back of me. I was still thinking, I'm sure I've got, enough in me to go and work in a corporate environment. I've got a lot to offer. What's there for me? What could I, where can I progress my career? How can I progress my career in a big corporate environment, a law firm?
You are career orientated, you are ambitious, and that's something again that's come out throughout your career, hasn't it? So it was never a case that you didn't want to do that. It was a case of finding the right time, and I know that obviously you had some personal circumstances as well, didn't you, that were really challenging. But you went into a firm, and then that was also when you had, I think, quite a period of personal insecurity, didn't you?
Yeah, brilliant news. I secured a role at a large international firm.
So exciting.
Amazing. So exciting. Yeah. Been at our previous place for 17 years, brand new environment, going back to work on a 5-day-a-week basis, super excited, going to specialise in partner hiring in-house. And the night before I was about to start, my husband left me and the 2 kids, and that was just something that was just totally out of the blue. Wasn't expecting it at all, and I just thought, what do I do? How do I do this? How do I start my job tomorrow morning? Yeah. Feeling totally broken. How do I cope with working 5 days a week and balancing 2 children? One son had just started at primary school. My daughter had just started secondary school, and I was thinking, how am I ever going to do this? So what I did was just carried on. I just threw myself into the role. I didn't tell anybody. I worked all hours. I was rushing out the door a little bit earlier than normal to go and pick up the kids, logging on the train. Thousands of mums and dads, I'm sure, have done this all the time, but giving them their dinner, logging back on till whatever time I needed to, just so I could show that I was present and I was, I needed to be good at my job. No weakness could be shown from that. So I just carried on.
It's interesting hearing yourself speak now.
Yeah.
It just must feel a bizarre time. And also, I know that your leadership style is very inclusive and really creating this sense of belonging for people and ensuring people can be authentic. And I know, and showing vulnerability. And at that time, as you say, you couldn't do any of that. You just had to keep going.
Yeah.
It must be really strange to go back to that moment in time when you talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. And, as soon as after about 4 months, I had to tell my manager. I just thought I'm going to need some time off to attend some legal appointments. This is my moment really to say. And she was, totally shocked, incredibly supportive. Couldn't believe that there was no inkling whatsoever that there was anything other than a stable home life, and mentally I was all fine, but actually underneath I was in an incredible amount of pain.
Yeah.
Back now I think, why didn't I say anything? We're not that. It wasn't an environment that wouldn't have. It was an environment that's inclusive. And, if a team member had done that, I would be totally aghast at what, why didn't you come to me earlier? I'd have supported them throughout and given them, whatever they needed, whatever support that they needed. But I slowly started telling colleagues and they were equally as supportive. And actually that was a real breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
That, showing that vulnerability, it actually created some really long-lasting friendships.
Yeah.
And
it makes it safe for other people to be able to share, their own personal traumas and situations, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. None of us are robots. We've all got other things going on in our lives that, can make a real difference to how you act or feel. And it's so important to be vulnerable. Yeah. Actually, be yourself, be authentic, and because that will be recognized, and you need that support around you, when you're having a bad day, when things feel a bit too much, that you need to be able to share with somebody. There might be something happen at work that might give you a little trigger, and if somebody knows what's going on else in your life, they might sort of pull you back and say, do you know what, you probably just been you're overthinking this, you're probably you're probably a little bit emotional. It's not as bad as you think.
That's so true. And a big, like you say, big learn. But also, I can imagine in that period of time, work was almost a bit of a saviour as well for you, where you you're not thinking about everything that's happening outside of work, at home life, and you can just go in and crack on the proverbial duck.
It was my total saviour. I had to make this job work. I absolutely could not fail at this. I was going to be needing to be financially independent, and I gave myself no choice, but this must work for me. So I do think back now and think, had I not had that, where would I be? If I'd been at my previous company, I've been there for 17 years, I would have shown them that vulnerability straight away.
Earlier on in the process,
Earlier on, So really interesting. So, from adversity comes real strength.
Yeah, and I think you've shown a lot of that as well throughout your time. So your career starts moving forward again, doesn't it? And you're really, I think, starting to own what you're doing, own your role and where you want to go. How did that feel for you then?
Yeah, loved it. I felt great. It was another role that I had. I wasn't just a mum and a wife. I was this important person shaping the hiring process on globally on the partner side, and it felt great. And it gave me another sort of lease of life, really. And so I absolutely loved it. All was going well. And then COVID came, and that changed.
COVID,
that changed the recruitment landscape, and entirely. And there was a recruitment freeze. And what happened was, I was one of many who were furloughed, and that was, for a number of months, and that was a very worrying time. Not really knowing sort of what the future held for me. My career. Would I be in a job in a few weeks' time? Can I pay the bills? How long is this COVID going to happen? You're going to continue? Is that recruitment
for everybody as well? And you've must have been doing some kind of homeschooling as well.
Really
appreciate teachers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I wasn't furloughed straight away, and so we were all trying to keep our jobs and sort of take on projects to really sort of justify as being there. And I was homeschooling my son and my daughter as well, and on top of it, I've got a puppy like everybody else in the UK.
There's a lot of stress in there.
It was just a really
horrific time.
Horrific time. Just that fear. It's the fear of the unknown, isn't it? And I think that because I had no, my husband wasn't around anymore. I just felt totally sort of alone, and I have got to make this work. I've got to carry on. I can't fall apart. I've just got to drive and keep going. So fortunately, my firm offered me a HR business partner role a few months after being furloughed, because I think there was a point where, nobody really knew whether or not those jobs were ever going to be around again in the recruitment. What would the landscape had just drastically changed. So I was taken on as a HR business partner role, which showed real trust and in me, because I'm not a generalist HR person. I'd never done a generalist role before, but it was such a great opportunity that I couldn't say no. And they were brilliant. They said they would give me whatever support I needed to make it a success. And
like you say, speaks volumes about the firm, doesn't it? To try and find your strengths and how can we make those work as well. I think that's really great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it was a really sort of great opportunity to get closer to the business, really understand how a law firm works.
Yeah.
In recruitment, you see it from one perspective. It's all very shiny and really this was sort of lifting the lids on the mechanics of running a law firm. The commerciality involved. So, I gained a lot of exposure to a lot of things, and going through the life cycle of pay reviews and promotions and well-being and employee relations. You see it all as a HR business partner, and it was really very interesting.
And were you then more involved in the DI element? You've always in your career, it's been something you're very passionate about.
Yeah.
Particularly about raising other females, and making sure that there is gender diversity. But I know you're passionate about all kinds of inclusivity, aren't you? Was that really when it started to come to the forefront for you?
Yeah, I was then offered a role actually in as a senior manager in partner services, and I was asked to look after the integration and onboarding of all the new partners, whether through internal partner promotions or external hires, external laterals. And that's where sort of the D&I came from. For me, a lot of laterals that we took on were female, and it was really, their journey was very different to a male partner's journey, both internally as from a promotion pipeline, but also externally as well. And I really got close to those female laterals and really sort of understood what it's taken for them to get there, what it means for them to be there, and what it means for them to stay there.
That's interesting.
It really did open up my eyes to the journey that female partners go through, and those from a diverse background as well. It was a real insight, and made me very passionate about how to make it, easier, and what other support that female partners and diverse partners need.
Yeah.
Or those senior associate coming up the ranks.
That's such a good point, actually, Claire, because you often see there is support networks to get people to that stage, and then it all stops as well, and you're just supposed to be able to do the rest of it yourself. And actually, I do think there needs to be this support network that keeps going, because you don't just get to a partner level, which is an amazing achievement, and it stops. Hopefully you want to keep growing your career as well in a partnership, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, there were lots of initiatives that as a firm we had, and also just some more sort of informal ones. I would put partners in touch with other, new female partners, and, put them in touch with going for a coffee. So they've got a support network there. There was informal mentorship programs going on, buddying, there were lots of things that were so invaluable for them. And even just me going for a coffee with them and helping them with any sort of support that they needed as well.
That's so good. And you touched on the mentoring piece there as well. So, what would you say obviously there's a difference between sponsorship, mentoring and buddies, all there. What do you think is the reason that these are so essential and really help people develop and grow?
Yeah.
You need all three? Is it everything needed, do you think, at different times in your career?
It's interesting. I don't think I've ever really sort of had a mentor, but I have had allies and champions, and I have really recognised what they have done for me and for others as well. You know, for other females and diverse candidates. It's sponsorship and champions is really so important when you're, particularly if you're maybe not feeling as positive about yourself as you could be. You know, we all go through sort of ups and downs in our career, and it's so important that you surround yourself by positive people that, you know, are giving you affirmations and compliments, and, you know, telling you when and I do it to others as well, telling people when they've done something, you know, well, challenging them to think the next step on the ladder, encouraging them, giving them that sort of added push or that added boost that they need to boost their self-esteem. It's so important. We don't live in vacuums. Our careers are not in vacuums. We're amongst colleagues all the time, and we need to feed off each other. And I think we should be encouraging each other to really sort of be the best that we can be, and support people along the way. And you know, champion and allyship is just vital. It's been vital for me, and it's vital for anybody that wants to progress.
Yeah, I think that's completely resonates with me, everything you're saying there. And I think sometimes, you know, it's great to get feedback, isn't it, as part of that journey? And, you know, feedback needs to be both positive and constructive. And you forget, I think sometimes people forget the positive bit as well, to say, you are doing that incredibly well done, go out and do it again and do it more and do it better. But also being able to balance it off and saying, and this is an area that you need to have some self-improvement on. So
absolutely. But I think I think that if you've got areas of self-improvement, that's fine, and be told about them. But really big up where they're doing really well. You know, don't spend 2 minutes if you're doing a review with somebody. Don't spend 2 minutes talking about what they're doing well, and then the next 10 or 15, 20 minutes telling them about what they've not been doing so well. And you know, people need to feel positive so they can feel confident in themselves. I mean, I'm just talking about from my own perspective. So, you know, maybe this doesn't resonate with other people, but, you know, we all have imposter syndrome at some points in our lives. And if that can be, you know, taken out and, you know, shattered by people saying to you, no, you are good at what you do, and these are your, you know, particular strengths, and do more of this. You know, it levitates you to the next level.
I always remember I had a coach years ago, and you know, old style management, these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses, go and work on your weaknesses. Exactly what you're saying there. And normally your weaknesses are the bits of self-development, are the bits that you probably don't enjoy either. So you go away and try and do it, come back and have the review, similar sort of thing. Well, we got a bit better, but you still need to keep working. And then this coach said to me, just imagine if those bits that you're doing really well and that you enjoy and that you're good at, if you worked even harder at those, imagine what you could achieve. And it was like a light bulb moment for me, Claire. And I was just like, wow, yes. And that, I think, really started to develop and change my career. So it's interesting to hear you say that. I think you've hit the nail on the head, definitely.
Yeah. No, it is so important. It's, you know, don't get hung up on what you're not so good at, or what somebody's told you that is your weakness. Don't learn from that. Speak. You know, take that constructive feedback and think how you can improve. But, you know, do more of what you're really good at. You know.
And what about the networking piece then? Because I know you've got a really strong network, which you've actually really worked on and nurtured over the years. And, you know, how important is that? When should people start thinking about that in their careers?
Yeah, it's just evolved right from the beginning, really. You know, the legal network is small anyway, so it's quite easy to be sort of known in that network and sort of keeping in touch with. But it's so important. I have built my network up from the day of sort of joining the legal recruitment ranks, and going to talk to people at events. My competitors, other competitors of mine, you don't really want to speak to them because they're your competitors. You don't want to give anything away. You're in this room with 10 of your other competitors, and the last thing you want to be doing is talking about work to them. But that's exactly what I did. I talked to them about work, the landscape, how they are, got to know them as people, and these people come around all the time. You see them all the time on the circuit, and I've kept in touch with them, from years and years ago. And for example, the other week I was just got in touch with somebody who I hadn't actually spoken to for 10, 12 years, and we picked up just like that. And they're now a client for us here. And it's just so important. It's so important to have that network. They're your allies as well, because they'll champion you. People talk in amongst the network, so build it right from the beginning. And as you're evolving, your career is evolving or going up and down like that. It's not an upward trajectory. These people are evolving as well. And I've got people that in my network that were sort of very junior when I was very junior, and now are heads of and in senior leadership. And those networks stay with you, so sort of nurture them. They have been invaluable for me over the years. I found that if you could be honest and authentic, it goes back to the authenticity.
It's critical relationships, and people do want to connect with people, don't they? That's
they do, yeah.
Our innate natures. So you don't want to connect with someone if you don't feel they're being their true authentic self. So you do see that, don't you? I think it's a really
you need honesty from these people. If the market's terrible, share with them. How are things? The market terrible. The market's awful. I'm having a terrible time. Well, and then and you can share that with them. Anything and that network is now invaluable to me. If I've got an issue or a new project that's on that I haven't got experience of, only the other week I reached out. Yeah, you just reach out to your network. Has anybody had experience of this? And they'll respond to you, and whether you meet them for coffee or lunch or whatever. And those one-to-one relationships are really important. But there's also a couple of strong group networks as well that we meet on a quarterly basis and share sort of advice and guidance and support, and it's just vital.
So Claire, we've talked a lot about nurturing networks and the importance of that. Could you give me an example of when that's probably been a big element of your personal life and the impact it's had on you?
I mean, it's so important to nurture those networks and have those allyships there. And I think, had it not been for one of my allies, I wouldn't be in this role today. I had a good friend from my network who actually saw the role as advertised as head of talent of Bird and Bird, and they badgered me into applying. And I was fine where I was. Didn't think I needed to do anything. It wasn't probably the right time. And she kept saying to me, "Have you done your CV yet? Have you applied?" And I kept saying, no, I'm still thinking. I don't know. And she did not stop. She badgered me and said, this job spec is you written all over. You can't not. And so eventually, just to shut her up, I put my CV in the lot. And it's been a great move for me. And I sort of feel like I owe her a lot, actually, because without her encouragement of my friend from the network that I built, I wouldn't be here today. Good
example.
It's a great example, and I hope that I do that to other of my friends and allies. That it's so important to be champion for others.
Yeah.
Right. yeah. It's just it's vital. You need that network to be the best you can be, because other people believe you are the best.
Yeah. And what about current challenges then that global head of talent acquisitions like yourself are facing? Because there's a lot of things going on in the world at the moment. So it must really impact what you're doing and your interactions with the senior partnership group.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many challenges going on at the moment for heads of TA in law firms. We're all looking for the same talent.
Yeah.
We're all fishing in the same small pond. What do we do about that?
Is it getting easier, Claire, actually, for people to look outside of legal? I know people will be willing to look wider professional services some of the time, but do you feel that's really developing?
Yeah, I think it has to. We've got to look at diverse pool of talent, and looking in the same pond is not going to find you your diverse.
Aren't you?
They're all the same fish. So we need to be more creative about where we're looking. To get that diversity of thought even is so important. So I think we are getting better at that, but I think there's always room for improvement. So there's no doubt. Another big challenge is retention. That's a huge one. You get the talent, that's great. Now you've got to hold on to it, and I think we're as an industry, we're doing better at keeping that talent, but particularly sort of the diverse talent. As they move up the organisation, we must try and keep them. We spent a long time and money nurturing them and finding them and building them up. That we need to ask ourselves really strong questions about what's happening with retention, and where can we do better, and where can we learn.
And that's such a good point. You think about, as you were saying earlier, about having the allyship groups. If you haven't got the best representation, but it's how can you really go above and beyond to make sure that you've created an environment where people want to be and want to stay, and that the values and the culture are real, and it's not just this glossy brochure with tick boxes everywhere. It's what's actually living and breathing in the firm.
That's right. Thing. Yeah, it is. That's very much that. I was going to say, it's very much living and breathing your culture. Yeah. Being who you say you are. It's being open about career conversations early on with people, and sort of setting the path out for them, so they have that vision, so they know what they could achieve. It's, as you say, the mentoring, buddying. There's lots of ways that we can retain that talent, but it's not just down to the HR teams to be doing that. It's across the organisation. We've all got to be pulling together to do what we can.
And you do need it, you need it bottom up and you need it top down, don't you?
Absolutely.
And then everything across the middle. So it takes everybody to make this involvement, doesn't it?
Yeah. It is. It's very much about, bottom up, top down. We've got to be living and breathing it, and the leadership needs to set the examples. But there is that vision and that sort of calling to arms, really, that will showing the organisation. It's about then setting the example, setting the stall out, and for the organisation to follow that and buy into it,
and to give feedback and to be involved. I think that's the good thing about having groups as well, not just the allyship groups that are external, but also making sure that you've got representation internally. And
absolutely,
what I'm interested in your line of work as well is the impact of AI. And I work in recruitment, as you know.
AI, massive one.
It's going to be huge, and I've heard people saying it's going to be great because it can take away loads of the admin for interview processes. But we also know that embedded in some AI are some actually quite deep and dangerous elements around lack of diversity. Do you think that can be developed? Is that something that you're looking at as a firm, and you in particular for your area?
Yeah, so as a firm, we're sort of advising our clients all the time on tech development and AI, and it is part of our strategy to be looking at AI from a business perspective as what else can we do, and particularly from a HR perspective. And we don't do very much at all on the AI side from a HR perspective, but that is one of our projects over the next 12 months is to look at where we could use AI. How could that improve the process? How can it improve our jobs? How can we get better talent from AI?
Yeah.
But it's not without its downsides, AI, and that there can be this real discrimination that's built into AI. So we've really got to look at that and think whether that is the way we want to go, or are there sort of other creative ways we can use AI? It's not just about sort of looking at applications. It's what else is there out there that can help us sort of harness this AI, because everyone's talking about it.
No one really understands it, the people I'm speaking to.
Nobody understands. Nobody. I've been to so many networking events where we're all sat around the table and we all can't wait to hear what everyone's going to say about AI and how they've harnessed it and what they're doing. And you bring your notepad and pen. You're like, right, I'm going to come away with some really great solutions here. And everyone's the same. Apart from the tech companies, I think, I've sat with some heads of or chief people officers of tech companies, and they have started to harness it because it's inbuilt in their culture. AI, tech is what they do, but it's
a bit different, isn't it? That kind of cultural element where everyone's always looking for what's next.
Yeah,
improvements. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And in most professional services firms, as we know, things are a little bit slower to develop and to pick up and to grow. So, hopefully by the time everyone else has sorted it out and made all the mistakes, then professional services firms will be ready to take advantage of.
Exactly. No, exactly. No, but it is, we joke, but this is one of our strategies for the next 12 months is to really look at what we can do on the AI side, because we can't, we are, as I say, we're advising our clients on it. So we've got to be sort of showcasing what we're doing as well.
Fabulous. And what would you say, words of wisdom to Claire watching LA Law back in the day, thinking this is me, this is what I'm going to do and achieve on a Thursday night? I used to watch it on Thursday night as well.
Yeah.
What words of wisdom would you give, Claire, to people listening to this that want to develop a career either in talent acquisition or in law?
Gosh, I would say that I think this applies to anybody really. Your career is not, doesn't go up like that in an upper trajectory. It can go like that and a bit like this, and it can flatline for a while, and that's okay, because if you've got other things going on, that's okay. But at some point, be brave and put yourself in a position where you're out of your comfort zone, and whether that's within your own role or whether that's looking at a new challenge outside of your role, whether that's inside your organization or another organization. Just be brave, constantly challenge yourself. Think about what's next for you. Don't be just happy at the right time. Don't be happy with your lot. Think, where else can I go? Where am I going to be in 2 years' time? Where am I going to be in 5 years' time? And I think advice for me is sort of, don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't get that LA Law position as a lawyer, but I'm sat here alongside next to these lawyers, advising them on my area of expertise.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a failure that that I'm not a lawyer. I'm in a really great position where I love what I do and sort of, advising them. So I would say, don't be too hard on yourself. You're better than you think.
Yeah.
Listen to others when they praise you. pay others compliments, because it all comes back. It all comes back. What you pay in, you get out.
That's great. I think some great words of wisdom. I love the fact of, be brave. I think you're right in your career, and don't be afraid to try things. And if it doesn't work out, then you can try something else. And I think, you've in your career shown such determination, focus to get what you wanted, and you did. And then you found out it wasn't right when you'd actually achieved what you wanted. Yeah. So then you did a different career iteration. I think, as you say, make sure that you're paying it forward, listen to people, give advice, take advice, and really nurture your networks and your groups. I think I've taken out of the conversation today. So thank you so much for today. Honestly, it's been absolutely amazing hearing your thoughts.
No worries. It's great. It's great to be here, and thank you. I'm delighted that you wanted to talk to me. Hopefully somebody will find it interesting. But no, it's great to be here, and thank you, Nikki.
Pleasure. Thanks, Claire.